Happy Monday world! Today's episode is going to be a little different. I spent the last 3 weeks traveling through London, Italy, Slovenia, and France with the Live the Adventure crew. Now usually I explain the good news stories from around the world, but in this episode I thought I would ask all these incredible world travelers their own good news stories told from their own voice. So first up we have Kristen Sarah, who talks about her experience in India and how getting robbed actually had a heartwarming ending.
Hi, I'm Kristen Sarah and my YouTube channel is Hopscotch the Globe. I'm also Sia's wife, if you didn't know. So my story starts actually on a bad note. I just had this horrible situation happen to me while I was in India. Love India, by the way, it's my favorite country. But I got robbed and it brought me to a low. I almost didn't even want to continue traveling. I wanted to just buy a ticket and go home. But I continued and I went to a different city than the place I got robbed, feeling kind of crappy.
When Kristen arrived to this city, it was the middle of the night. She was all alone. She didn't know where she was going to stay, which can be pretty daunting for a traveler. And a local taxi driver was going to take her to the center of the city to show her some places to stay. And that's when a family intervened.
And a family, sisters actually, and their daughter overheard me talking to this cab driver, and they interrupted and said, don't go with him. He's gonna take you to an area that you shouldn't be in. It's unsafe. And again, I'm feeling like I just felt awful, even more awful. I felt like everyone was trying to do me wrong. And then they just said, hey, do you want to stay at our place? And I felt like, again, yeah, you know what, this feels good. So I ended up going to their house, which ended up being a mansion. They all worked in Bollywood. They fed me until I was like, I thought my stomach was gonna explode with this delicious Indian food, and just showered me in love and kindness and gave me my own room, my own shower, and it just made me feel so good. And it made me realize that I made the right decision to continue my travels.
What Kristen learned that day is that there are bad people in the world, but the good people outweigh the bad. And whenever a bad situation happens in your life, that a good one is sure to follow, which is exactly what happened to Raya on her trip to Bali.
Hi, my name is Raya. I have a channel, Raya Was Here, which is like travel and lifestyle and inspiration on YouTube. And my story is set in Bali. So one of my really good friends, Karina, and I went to Bali almost like 6-7 months ago, and we rented bikes to get around Bali because if you've ever been, then you know that's kind of the way to do it. So we had one bike because I don't know how to drive, so she was driving and I was in the back, and we went on a day trip about an hour and a half or so outside of Ubud to a waterfall.
And that's when things took a turn for the worst.
After about 5 minutes of driving away from the waterfall, we got a flat tire.
It didn't take long for somebody to notice 2 girls stranded on the side of the road.
About maybe a minute and a half of us standing by the side of the road, a guy pulls up behind us on his bike, and my initial response is defense.
It's important to hear your instincts, but don't always trust them because they can be wrong.
It was just love. It was just love being poured at us, and so much support from him and his wife and everyone else that we met that day. The world is just there's so much good and so much love in the world, so much more than we know and we can expect. So to just be open to receiving that and giving it back.
You will encounter 1,000 strangers on your global adventures, most of whom just want to help you out, which is exactly the story between Josh and a friend he made in Thailand.
Hey guys, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel Exploring with Josh, and I pretty much go traveling around the world, explore all these cool abandoned places. That's what I'm known for, but I also like to share my experiences and just pretty much life in general. So there was this one time I was in Thailand, and I went to this cafe where I stayed at too, called May and Mark's. This guy was named Zun. Really cool guy, and he didn't seem like, oh, like, yeah, this is my hotel, yeah, you can stay here, cool. It was like, nah, man, this guy was awesome. Like, we connected, we talked as if we were friends, but it was his business. Really nice guy. So then the next day he's like, Josh, I want to take you to this really cool place. It's like, it's hidden, it's not abandoned. It was just this beautiful landscape and mountains, the sunset, everything's just amazing. We drove an hour. He brought us in his car all the way over there just to show us this place to get pictures. He didn't have to do any of this, but for him to just go out of his way and drive an hour out to show us this like secret, super like hidden location was just like perfect for us. And I don't know, for me it's like most people never get that opportunity, and he just gave it to us. Like, he just showed us this place, and man, I loved it.
Sometimes the best experiences are only possible because of the help of a stranger, which is exactly what Nadine experienced on her trip to China.
My name is Anita Story, and I have the YouTube channel Hey Nadine, where I give travel tips and advice. So when I was traveling in China back in 2010 with my best friend Kristen, we were flying out of a small town called Yiqian. We got to the airport and we found out that our flight was cancelled, and the next flight wouldn't be until the next day at 11 p.m. because there's only one flight from Yiqian to Chengdu every day.
They started panicking. There's nobody around that speaks English. All the shops are closing down. There's no cabs around. There's no Uber in 2010. And there's no way to get to their next destination. That's when a group of journalists happened to also be stuck in the same airport.
And they came up with a plan to rent a vehicle and drive all night to another place. I forgot the name of the city, but it was another bigger city, but it was in the opposite direction because there might be flights in the morning that we could catch to get to Chengdu. And we made it standby, and we got to Chengdu that morning. And it's just one of those experiences that to me really opened my world and really brought a whole bunch of positivity into my life, because we were gonna have to give up on this experience, and they just, out of the blue, they just brought us in. They didn't ask for any money for the vehicle, and they didn't have to include us, and that meant a lot.
Many people think that travel is scary because of experiences exactly what Nadine experienced in China, getting stranded in an airport with nobody around. But what I hope you do realize is that whether you need a place to sleep, a helping hand, a meal, a handout, is that it's in human nature to help each other. We naturally want to help others, which is exactly what Louie experienced in Australia.
Hey, I'm Louie. I have a channel, Fun for Louie, where I adventure around the world, daily vlogging, and I am going to talk about an experience I had before I started vlogging. This was over 10 years ago. I was in Australia with no money, and I was hitchhiking up the East Coast with no money. And I think I'd been kind of living on the street in Sydney and not eating well, and I was in full survival mode, so I was dreaming of being able to eat properly and the comfort of a bed and things like this.
Yeah, I'd say when you're living on the streets, a bed would be nice, or a meal at least.
And then I was probably waiting at a truck stop for like a few hours when a guy said I could hitch a ride with him. It's like a 10-hour drive he was doing. A lot of them guys were saying their companies wouldn't allow me to, be a hitchhiker with them. But this one guy said I could get a ride with him, and then we got chatting about what I was doing and why I had no money and all these things. Just getting, you can have a good chat in 10 hours. But a few hours in, he pulled over at this truck stop and he gave me his card to go and use the showers so I could have a shower for the first time in like a week. And then he also bought me a meal, and he gave me $20 just for my adventures, just to kind of support me in what I was doing. And it was kind of weird because partly I don't like taking handouts from people, but there was such kindness. It was just such an amazing thing for me. It meant so much to me being able to have a warm shower and get a good meal inside of me. And then he let me sleep in his cab whilst he drove for the 10 hours. So it was just like seeing that kindness from a stranger and making that kind of connection gives me so much hope and humanity. And it actually impacted me so much, and I'm still feel like it was such a pivotal point in that kind of trip I was doing that made me want to in turn go and do good and help other people and do random acts of kindness.
I want to thank everyone that was in this video sharing your good news stories. I'm going to put a link to all of their YouTube channels below. Subscribe to every single one of them. They're all incredible people doing amazing things and radiating positive energy. That's what we need more in this world. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.